It began with the forging of the 3 compounds. Tren was given to the bodybuilders, the largest and most hormonal of all beings. Anadrol for the powerlifters who smelled of ammonia and regret. Anava for the influencers who swore they were natural in every sponsored post. But they were all of them deceived. For another compound was made. In the fires of Mount Tren, the Dark Lord Obel Vance forged in secret. The Master Roid, a compound so pure, so cunningly dosed, no Federation could detect it. And into this compound he poured his vanity, his precision, and his will to dominate all Federations. He was the deceiver, the fake natural, the false king who fooled them all. Beyond the mirrors of your gyms lies a world untouched by comfort, a realm where strength is sacred, but deception can be king. In the fires of Mount Tren, the Dark Lord Obel Vance forged in secret. The Master Roid, a compound so cunningly created, it slipped past every test. But it was not yet perfected. To refine it, Obel journeyed south, seeking unwitting test subjects. And he found them. A clan of gymlets, fresh to the iron, training chest 8 times a week, and already plagued by rotator cuff injuries. The gymlets embraced the vile without hesitation. Their dreams of mass twisted into grotesque obsession. Muscles swelled with unnatural symmetry, eyes gleamed with a hunger that could never be fed. And thus, the Tren goblins were born, creatures of the pump, servants of the false king, willing to do his bidding for just one more cycle. In the shadowed gutters of the Nattyverse, where the gyms cast no light and protein never flows, a child was abandoned to rust and rage, swaddled in nothing but a torn lifting strap and a name, Razer. For anger was his pre, and rage his fuel. He observed no rest days, no form checks, no clean nutrition. He no longer recalls the taste of vegetables. His bench is an old oil drum, his barbells rusted pipes. For Razer laughs in the face of tetanus. It is said he never learned to count. Instead, he lifts until he gets a labrum tear and calls that failure. By day, he toils in the creatine mines of the Winstrol Hills, breaking stone for the kings who've never trained Natty. But by night, he returns to the room, not just to grow, but to silence the storm within. Across the scorched earth of the Bulklands, the flame monks cultivated warriors trained in thermal fasting and metabolic ignition. Pyra was their prodigy, born into ketosis, raised on deprivation and fueled by 2 avocados. She knew only heat, hunger, and the slow burn of self-discipline. But when Mount Tren erupted and the sky bled fire, her sect was consumed in holy flame. Now she wanders the Nattyverse, the last ember of a broken creed, to heal the worthy and burn the rest. North of the Winstrol Hills lie the creatine mines, where bloating is brotherhood and water retention is a sign of loyalty. Here, deep beneath the earth, one lifter remains, untouched by sanity. His name is Razer. He does not know how many years he's worked in the mines, for Razer cannot count. But by the severity of his DOMs, he knows it has been many. But on Razer's 500th day of benching, the creatine mines had a royal visitor. Obel Vance, the false king who fooled them all. He brought with him a decree to increase productivity. His pre-workout, the Rageborn Hexostim, would be made mandatory. But Razer lives his life following a simple rule. If he can't pronounce it, he doesn't chug it. The young lifter's defiance angered the Dark Lord, for heresy against the scoop is the most grievous of transgressions, and for such defiance there is only one punishment: imprisonment in a cardio gulag, where the treadmills never stop, and all music is only playable at 128 BPM. But chained to the cursed ellipticals, Razer does not despair. Instead, he sharpens his hate, for he will return to silence the throne. In the northern reaches of the Nattyverse lies the kingdom of Masvale, a realm where no child sleeps without their casein ration, and the royal bloodline is 93% way isolate. It was in these halls that the lightest boy ever born to House Gainsborough first disgraced the scale. Prince Parvell, the feather of the bulklands, hope of the hard gainers, stranger to stretch marks. Growing up, Prince Parvell was proud of the progress no one else seemed to see. Where others saw clavicles and ribs, he saw destiny. But on Liftmas Eve, the day before Parvell was to step upon the sacred scale and become a man, his stepbrother, Titanicus, bolder, broader, bicep vein visible since birth, sought to sabotage the young prince by slipping the cursed fat burner shred shade into Parvell's overnight oats. By the next day, what little weight Parvell had gained melted away, and when he stepped upon the sacred scale, the elders wept. His title was stripped, his oaths revoked, his shaker shattered. His father the king had no choice but to banish him for shaming the scale. But little did he know, his exodus had been carefully orchestrated. Beyond the ruined frontiers of the Nattyverse dwell creatures twisted by time and trends. Gimlets, sons of Trentok, banished from civilization due to uncontrolled protein farts, rest periods lasting longer than relationships, and a heretical fear of flexibility. But now, a new power threatens their very existence. Distraction. The gimlets found themselves no longer lifting for strength, but for lines, sacred marks of praise, etched into clay and light. They knew not who bestowed these marks, or how they appeared, but worshipped their number nonetheless. Over time, the gimlet's population began to dwindle as they grew so distracted. Some forgot to breathe. The tablets began to cast visions of a distant land, where the lighting is half natty and every angle is optimal. But the gimlets suffer a curse most perilous. What they see, they believe, and what they believe, they follow. But the promised land of perfect angles and eternal pumps was a mirage. The gimlets were shackled, forced to raise vast monuments of validation for she who reigned not by law, but by flawless symmetry and divine angles. Vaniraa, pharaoh of the Algorithma dynasty, the sovereign of serotonin, the high priestess of the mirror, and the most followed force in all the Nattyverse. In the collagen sanctuaries of Leantherra, a high king began his quest for immortality. King Brian, the ageless, sleeps upright, eats backwards, and ages in reverse. Fueled by 3 almonds, 2 IV drips, and 9 proprietary supplements he refuses to name, his bowel movements are charted by the high seers, and once delayed an entire war. Some say he passed a blueberry so intact, it was declared a sign of national stability. But there was one thing King Brian could not engineer: his son. Volcanon, breaker of juice fasts, possibly adopted. Some say he once grilled steak over a ceremonial incense fire. Others say he cannonballed into the sacred electrolyte bath and called it a recovery dip. He has never tracked a macro, nor bowed to a watch that counts his steps. and when he's forced to meditate, he stares at the wall until it blinks first. Beyond the fires of Mount Tren lie the cardio gulags. Running on 3 hours of sleep, 2 scoops of expired pre and a single rice cake he found in a shaker bottle, Razer is haunted by the endless rhythm of cursed treadmills. But on his 84th Zumba session, the guard spoke of a prison ritual. Once per swole moon, freedom can be bought. But the currency of the Nattyverse is reps. And thus he was summoned, a rep regulator, a being bred for a single purpose, to measure form without mercy. It was decreed Razer would perform 100 flawless deadlifts to earn his freedom, but the barbell was cursed to weigh the same as Razer's past transgressions. 1 plate for the day he trained arms instead of legs, 1 for the spinach he never ate, and 1 engraved with the name Kyle, the spotter he once failed. And thus he began. But because Razer never learned to count, he forgot to stop. After 200 reps, Razer ascends to a higher state of being, known as Provana. His pump becomes perpetual, his sweat crystallizes into creatine, and he remembers every leg day he ever did. All 3 of them. The rep regulator, furious at Razer's unauthorized spiritual enlightenment, sends him back to prison, where his new cellmate has a plan. In the ruins of failed bulks, where ectomorphs haunt the smith machines they once believed in, lives a lifter so lean, even mirrors refuse to reflect him. Prince Parvell, exiled for shaming the scale, wanders the Nattyverse, flat, forgotten, and invisible to DEXA scans. At the Bent Barbell, a tavern for the torn and plateaued, he drowns his sorrows, 1 unflavored scoop at a time, until he hears whispers of a power forbidden, the Masteroid, said to grant impossible gains. With 0 acne and libido untouched, he does not hesitate. For what is pride to a man who once injected pure peanut butter just to hit his macros? And thus he travels to the laboratory of Testaroom, home of the Masteroid, guarded by Tren goblins and rivers of fat burner. It was an impossible task, but Parvell is an ectomorph trying to bulk. He attempts the impossible every day. With nothing but lifting belts braided from past failures, he scales the walls. Through a hatch in the ceiling he dives, a swan of sorrow and sodium deficiency. Eternal gains are within his grasp, but the cruel hands of destiny intervene. Parvell is seized, and immediately sentenced to a place all lifters fear, a cardio gulag. East of the plains of plain chicken lies the cardio gulag. Within these walls the gearlock tribunal keeps its most heretical lifters, natty zealots, scoop deniers, and form extremists. In cell 13, 2 such outlaws endure their sentence. Razer, who has bicep curled air for 3 days straight, searching for the mind-muscle connection to freedom, and Parvell, who now tracks macros on a single grain of rice, hoping it was jasmine, but fearing it was basmati. Their last 2 escape attempts had failed. Their first was elegant, in theory. They forged a slingshot from cursed resistance bands. Parvell would ride the tension, and Razer would anchor the bar, and together they would fly. But the band snapped, flinging Razer's rotator cuff into another timeline, and so they planned their second escape attempt. Razer believed that if they both consume expired whey, they'd develop such severe protein farts that they could erode the concrete wall and dig their way out. But the stench was so severe, Parvell flatlined for 30 seconds and needed to be revived with smelling salts. But the eternal ectomorph had one last idea. His pre-workout, the Rageborn Hexostim, is flammable, corrosive, and banned in 9 realms. He dry scoops the pre onto the iron lock. But the path to freedom is rarely easy. Faced with hordes of Tren goblins, their hopes fade. Until foam rollers strike the walls of the gulag. Crossfitters from Amrapdor, angry at protein tariffs imposed by the gear-locked tribunal, storm the gulag in rhythmic, kettlebell-fueled fury. Tren goblins armed with juice javelins ride out to meet them, and in the fray of box jumps and burpee detonations, 2 prisoners vanish into the smoke, thus changing the destiny of the Nattyverse forever.